Welcome to That's My Opinion Pod. I'm your host, Vero Iglesias. We have a very special guest with us this week, Spiritual Sonja on Instagram, also known as Drew. I'm going to be asking her questions about what her favorite housewives are, all the usual stuff. So you'll get to know her in a bit. But before we start getting into the nitty gritty, basically the way the episode is going to go is that we're going to start with Vanderpump. I was pleasantly surprised by this week's episode. I found it more entertaining than the ones before. Then we'll also get into the Valley. Kristen Doty and Jax are really just doing their thing, and I'm I'm here for it. Once again, another surprising moment this week. And then we'll end with Summer House, which is probably the best thing on Bravo right now. I've said it once, I said it again. Like it's so good. So yeah, we're gonna be discussing all of our opinions. Let's get into it. All right, Drew,
Hi.
hit me with it. Who is your top 5 favorite housewives of all time?
Okay. So I think this is the hardest question I've ever had to answer, but Erica Jane is my favorite housewife of all time. That's number one. That's my favorite. No problem. And then it gets tricky, but I would probably have to say the Countess, Kenya Moore. I love a good villain. I love Candace on Potomac. And then I think it's like a tie for me between Portia and maybe Lisa Rinna, as far as they're just so important.
They are. I will give them that credit. What are you thinking about Candace leaving Potomac?
I'm really sad. I feel like it was either going to be Candace gets pregnant or Candace leaves the show. Like I felt like there were two ways it was going to go. And I kind of feel like she's misunderstood and got like bullied off a little bit.
Wow, interesting. So I hadn't seen Potomac for a few seasons,
Mm.
and then I started rewatching this season. So I was always really confused by the Candace hate because I was like, I don't see anything wrong. Like people really can't stand her.
I was actually a big Monique fan. Like, and they were the two that had such a big falling out where I do feel like it changed the whole series, like tonally. But it was my two favorites fighting, which I always hate that. But I'm like, I understand Candace. She's a Sagittarius. And I mean, I'm a Scorpio, but we do have like some similar stuff happening in our charts. And I get her. She's like a social media warrior a little bit and she gets herself in trouble. But I don't know. I love her. I think we would vibe in real life.
Okay, so you're an astrologer, and I want to know, when you watch, do you guess everyone's sign, or do you like to look it up and then have their behavior make sense to you? Like, what's your strategy when you're watching?
So sometimes I'm watching it. I'm just like, what are you? I need to know right now. And I just pull it up. So I feel like it's usually that, but every once in a while, someone will say something and I'll try to guess. I was so sure that Lisa Barlow was a Capricorn, for example, but she ended up being a Sag and she's very Sag. So I looked her up and I was like,
Interesting.
oh, yeah,
Pleasantly surprised. Very interesting. And then, do you have like your top 3 favorite star signs?
I'm going to go with Scorpios because that's me.
Mhm.
I'm going to go with Capricorns because no one ever says that and I love them.
Okay.
And then, ooh, really hard. Honestly, I think I like some of the most unpopular signs and have the most of them in my life because also Pisces.
Oh, wow. Okay, I
I'm like
was not expecting that.
some controversial. If you asked me a few months ago, I would have said Virgo, but no more.
Oh my God, I can't do Virgos.
That's the number
Can't do them.
one housewife sign, actually. We did a Spiritual Sonia episode about it, and it's like
Oh, how cool.
Virgos are like the villains of Bravo.
Oh my God, I did not. That's so okay. I need to listen to. I'll post that episode
Okay.
on our Instagram because
Yeah.
I need to listen to it immediately.
There's so
Can you
many.
tell me why you like Capricorns?
I think as a Scorpio, they just make me feel taken care of, which is rare for a Scorpio. They always have a plan. They're leaders. They're comfortable being a leader. They don't always make me lead. And I think that the way they process their emotions, people think that, I don't know, they have this like dark humor and way about life that we connect. Like they get me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm a Gemini, Scorpio rising, Aquarius moon.
Ooh, oh, so many Aquarius moons in my life. I love them. Erica Jane, Aquarius moon.
Oh, is she? No wonder she's like one of my favorites. I'm obsessed with her.
And we'll talk about this too, but Lala is Aquarius moon.
I don't know if I want to be associated with her right now.
I
She's
can't,
a Scorpio rising, or am I making that up?
she is, and she's a
Yeah, I
Virgo.
know.
So
The Scorpio rising's intense. That I do relate to her in that sense of like I can be very intense. And I'm
yeah,
also like I'm like a pit bull. Like I
me
will
too.
fight every fight. I'm get into it with everyone. Unapologetic about my
Yeah,
opinion. Unapologetic about what I think about what you're doing wrong in your life. Like I
yeah,
get it. And those are the things that are frustrating me about Lala right now. So maybe I should like take a look in the mirror. But whatever. It's not a
same.
therapy session for me.
I'm like, maybe it will be when we start talking about Lala.
Wait, so what's your rising and your moon?
I'm a Gemini rising, Capricorn moon, Scorpio sun.
Oh
So
my god, how funny. So we're reversed with our sun and rising. How funny.
yeah, and I think Gemini Scorpio, when you put them together, is so interesting because we could get so excited about a lot of like little niche topics and very
Yeah.
obsessive. So this will be a
Yeah.
fun conversation.
Oh, I love it. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Okay, now next question. What is your favorite franchise of all time?
Of all time, it's Atlanta, but currently it's Miami. Miami is so
Okay.
good. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
from Miami, so I'm really
Oh,
biased. And you're so biased. It's insane.
I love
But
that.
I think they do such a good job of representing the city, of representing the culture, but also just like as a standalone franchise, they do conflict well, they do resolution well, they move on, they still have fun, like they know how to keep things light, they give us good fashion, like they just do it
Yeah.
all right for me.
It's
So I'm
it's
a
like
big
the fashion, the wealth, the glam,
fan.
the drama, the like roots. It's all there. Like I feel like these
It's all
women just go way back and I love it.
there. I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Okay, and then outside of Housewives, do you have your top 5 favorite Bravo celebrities?
Okay. Does Amelia Gray count as a Bravo lab?
Yeah, you count her.
Okay. Number
Yeah.
one, Amelia
Wow.
Gray. I'm like, she's so beautiful. And then, okay, Katie Maloney,
Mhm.
1000%.
Mhm.
Stassi.
Yeah.
And then I think Amanda and Kyle, I think they're the heart of Summer House and I truly enjoy them and I'm worried about them and I'm rooting for them.
You know what? I'm not that worried about them. I probably should be. After we'll talk about it when we talk about this episode.
Yeah,
This episode I did go, that's a little concerning,
me too.
but I also just like feel like they'll never end. But who knows? Who
Don't
knows?
give up. Two Leos,
Yeah.
so they could
Yeah.
keep going forever.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, and then what's your favorite non-Housewives show on Bravo?
Vanderpump.
Okay,
Yeah.
fun.
Vanderpump Rules is somewhat new to me. Like I started watching it last year. I
Mhm.
started watching it 3 weeks before Scandal happened.
No fucking way.
I was like, what is going on? Because for our podcast, I was like, you know what? Like, it's time. They're all cancers. Cancer season's going to come in the summer. I want to be ready. And then I
Uh-huh.
started watching, and then it was like watching something, knowing this happened was so crazy. But I was only 3 weeks in. I was on like season one or season two.
That's insane.
Yeah, love Vanderpump.
I've been watching Vanderpump from the beginning.
Oh,
So when I saw people were like rewatching it, I was like, I'm so fucking jealous.
yeah,
Like the things I would do to relive like Jackson Stassi era. Like I can't even tell you.
I think it was the best binge of my life, like TV wise. And I will do it again from time to time and go back and start over because it's a very comforting watch.
So good. Okay, well, speaking
Yeah.
of Vanderpump, let's transition then into discussing what we thought about this week's episode.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, why Sandoval felt the need to once again in his confessional make the comment about the batteries and the pen
I
is
know.
so truly beyond me. Even the producers were like, "Are you really bringing that up? Like, after everything you went through on the internet?"
Yeah, I mean, she literally booked, like, an ad out of it, like, a commercial, like, she got paid from him saying that, like, "Are you sure you wanna say it again?
Yeah,
Because
like,
you seem
another
upset."
person. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, he's very toxic Virgo rising vibes with that, where he's like, I was taking care of everything. She's so
Mhm.
lazy. I'm so tired of him calling her lazy and acting like she's in for a rude awakening when she lives alone. I was like, okay, sir. I think
Yeah, like,
she's not actually.
he's the one with the assistant that has to do everything for him.
Yeah. And like, let her have like her chicken satay next to her bed. She's
Yeah, like,
depressed.
let her be. She also lives a very chaotic lifestyle, like, sometimes it's hard to throw things in the trash.
Yeah, and she got cheated on by her partner of 10 years, and I feel like it's still only 3 months out when they're shooting this, so it's like, we should remember that no matter what she's giving on the surface, it's like, that's depressing. She's sad.
100%. Even if it had been a year, I would be like, could you imagine being with someone for 10 years and you've never done anything to them? You've
Yeah,
never been she's I mean, at least I think on Vanderpump, we've never seen her be anything but a good partner to him. And he
yeah,
goes, has this affair with one of her best friends in their house while at her grandma's funeral. It would take me years, forget about 3 months to recover,
yeah.
years to recover from that.
Yeah, and I think that this was even maybe 2 episodes back now, but when Sheena's like, "This breakup has brought her so much, like, prosperity," and
Mhm.
it's like, you could have all the money in the world, but the person that you just gave a decade of your life to threw you away like you were nothing, and it's like,
Mhm.
material things are great, but that's a very, like, sad reality. So,
Very.
I'm like, "Oh, back off."
Well, what did you think about this week when Lala, Sheena, and Ariana had that conversation? And like we got, I thought, a significant amount of vulnerability from Ariana. And we had
I
them three like really come together. And
Yeah,
then what happened in the fucking confession?
I literally in that moment, I was like, I feel like this is the sweetest scene. I've been going through it myself, like I shared with you. I was even getting a
Mhm.
little choked up at it just because I was like, oh, it's coming out. Like she's sad. But then the way Lala and Sheena talked about it after, being so judgmental about her living situation, I was like, oh, I'm so disappointed. Like it went from being this really sweet moment between friends to being like, they're still judging her in a way that I'm like
Yeah.
confused by. Her and Tom
Yeah.
Sandoval are both cancers. Cancer is the sign that rules real estate and the home and holding a grudge forever. So of course they're going to be in a real estate battle over their home. That is, they are both cancers. Could have told you
Oh,
that was going to happen. And it's like, I don't know, Ali Luber needs to step in and be like, guys,
that
this
no way.
makes
That's
sense.
crazy. Since you are an astrologer, what do you think about Allie?
I feel like Ali is like, she is great, but she also is in this weird position where like she always has to try and make astrology sound like it's like rainbows and butterflies and very positive. And I'm like, baby girl, like, you know that there's more to it than that. That scene where she was like, if we could all just understand each other's birth charts, we'll all get along. I was laughing so hard. I was like, girl, I think you're like misunderstanding. But that was a great episode when she was talking about their charts and she was
Mhm.
trying. But yeah, I think it's funny having an astrologer on. I'm like, oh, there's definitely things that she's probably explaining to all of them behind the scenes too.
Oh,
And James, and I'm sure it's pretty funny to like have her perspective, but
mhm.
it's not all rainbows and butterflies. They probably edit out a ton of what she's saying though, also, to be fair.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. But yeah, and then so just back to that scene with Ariana, Lala, and Sheena. One of the things that kind of irked me is that Lala was relating to Ariana, right? Like being like, you felt thrown away or you felt this XYZ. And you can tell it's just like her understanding it and relating to it. But then she doesn't relate to her at all. Like in the moment, she's having this moment But then she goes into her confessionals and is like, I don't understand her. And I don't, because I did this and XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And she
Yeah.
needs to get over it. And she needs to be willing to film with him and blah, blah, blah. And then I was thinking, didn't Lala like do a whole ass documentary against Randall and like literally refuses to have anyone even near him?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to talk about that double standard?
Are we ever going to talk about the text that she sent to Tom Schwartz about like the pickleball? I know that there's custody and children involved, but I also don't believe in invalidating or negating a woman's breakup experience because there's no children involved. So I
Yeah.
don't like when Sheena and Lala are like, we're mothers now and
Mm.
whatever. So I hate that vibe. But yeah, I agree that there's been a big double standard. Imagine Katie was like, I'm in my soft girl era. I reached out to Randall. Like, it's like, that doesn't, you would hate that. Yeah.
So fucked up.
It was weird.
Wait,
Lala was crying during that conversation.
yeah, she was
She
fully
literally
crying,
was.
which like, I'm like, girl, this isn't about you right now. You're crying about you. You're not crying about Ariana.
No. And that
Like,
she does relate everything to herself. And I think she's really struggling to see that. But everybody around her is like, you keep doing this.
is that a Scorpio rising thing? Because I think I do that too.
Interesting. I think that that's like something that could be a Scorpio thing in the sense of Scorpios are so emotional and they're very like invested in the other person and what's going on. But I actually think it's almost, I think she's having a very Virgo moment of like,
Yeah.
I'm judging you and you're not doing things the way that I think you should or the way that makes sense to me based off my experiences. And like,
Mhm.
therefore, you're not valid and I'm going to keep criticizing your little choices here and there.
Mhm.
It's very Virgo to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about her getting lunch with Joe?
Weird. Once again, I don't understand if she's just like, hey, I have a kid, I have a family to feed, we're making a show. But she's like too comfortable all of a sudden after the reunion where she's like so angry. She's just so comfortable being like, me and Schwartzy got smoothies and I'm going to hear Joe out. And like, what happened
Mhm.
to make that switch? I don't know. But I don't really think, I think, especially after Joe went on Raquel's pod or Rachel's pod, I'm like,
Mhm.
we really shouldn't be giving this girl the time of day.
No, we shouldn't. I also don't think it's good for her mental health. Like, I don't think her mental health's in any position to be on this show.
No. And the way she was even like, Lala is a ticket to being into Schwartz's life forever. I was like, ticket? Like, you gotta speak a little more carefully than that. That was like a weird way of wording it.
Yeah, that
um,
was saying like, I want to be on the show, and Lala's the only way that I can keep getting invited.
yeah. And like, it's so weird. Where did Lala become like the in? It's so funny. It's usually like Sheena is like the weak link, but I do feel like this season it's actually Lala.
It is Lala. Well, because
Yeah.
she's a producer puppet.
Yeah. And she's soft now. I
I don't
can't
know
with
what
her
her balance.
abusing that term. I think softness is like being a good friend to the people that are like currently your friends also.
Well, yeah, that's the issue is that she's being soft with everyone but Ariana and but take Katie.
Yeah. Joe is very like doesn't belong. And I saw something on Instagram this morning actually where it was like she definitely came on the show to like legitimatize like her relationship with Schwartz. Make sure everybody knows like she got to speak on what it actually was. Cause she looks so like he really embarrassed her.
Mhm. What did you think about that singles event? I was dying.
That was rough.
Raw. Well, okay. I'm a Schwartz apologist, and I'm not saying I think he didn't do her dirty or any of that.
Yeah.
But when they were getting his hair done, which by the way, that was a crime,
Crime.
crime. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go to the singles event tonight," and she was like, "I'm coming." The girl, he didn't invite you.
Even
By
the
the way,
way she's like, who's this girl while she's doing his hair? It was really weird. The vibes were so off.
weird. Like he was like, "I fully went on a date last night." So
Yeah.
I'm like confused because, and it's not that I don't understand her. And I think like as a girl experience, girls sometimes can just be hopeless romantics, even when we're trying not to be. And you always want to see the best in the person. And if you like that person, you want it to work no matter what
Yeah.
flags are in front of you. Now, as someone who's dealt with a lot of men who give me mixed signals, I have learned with age, if there is a red flag or if they're giving you a signal they're not into you, that is how they feel.
Yeah.
You know,
And he's not claiming her. He's calling her Joseph. He's acting very bro-y and like he's very charming. Like I am a Tom Schwartz apologist sometimes as well. I love Katie. I think they have great chemistry. It makes me sad. Like I'll always wish they would get back together. Um, it's like so sad, but
Mhm.
it is like he's very charming and sweet, and I could understand the way women interact with him on the show, even the way Tori's like, buy me a drink, take me out. And then you have Joe's approach. It's like interesting. I've been around him and it does feel like you can approach him in that either way you want. And it's like he's
Really?
very open. And I was at the season finale filming and that guy threw the glass. And the one really funny memory I have is like Joe in open toed shoes, like stomping over the broken glass. And I was like, girl, because I knew who she was at the time. And I was like, be careful. Like your shoes are open toe and there's glass everywhere. And she's like, I just want to make sure you're okay. And I was like, I just want to make sure you're okay, Joe. And it's like, I
What?
haven't seen any of this yet, but I was like, oh, she's nice and a little kooky, but I feel bad for her.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she's a good person. She's just not good on reality TV.
No, no,
Like,
she doesn't belong there. I did see on the podcast notes from like the Rachel Joe episode that like he did say to her that he was going to not be single, that he was going to do the red bracelet or whatever, but then he switched to green when the cameras were around and he did start going around and making out with people. And it's like, I don't know what she expected. He did blatantly say he was going on a date with someone like the day
yeah,
before. I think she's just being a little bit delusional. Also, like she moved in with him really quickly after his divorce, which is very bizarre.
red flag.
Very much a red flag. I don't, and I think that they don't like talk anymore. RIP
Really
to
RIP.
Joseph and Schwartz.
And then I hated the confrontation between Katie and Lala over Joe. That was fucking weird and pissed me off.
Yeah. I think that was like the lowest point of that because they keep butting heads, Lala and Katie, now so many times, which normally are two of my favorites. Like, I
Mhm.
think this season and seeing Lala in person at the finale interacting with Sandoval has changed my energy towards her. Like, I'm like, you're
Mhm.
kind of like not, it's not what I thought. But seeing them fight has been so sad. And it's like, I would tell my friend if I was going to see the person that their ex-husband was it's like nothing she's doing is adding up unless there's something going on off camera that would explain everything to me. They're like her actions, they just don't make sense at the moment.
No,
I
they really
think
don't.
Katie deserved to know. You know, it's one thing for Allie Luber to go. I feel like the producers are like, Allie, give this girl a reading. And she's like, fine, I'm too new to say
Yeah,
no. But like
100%.
Lala could have sent Katie a text of being like, "Hey, listen,
You're gonna
I
please
have
show up.
to yeah, just
Yeah.
please understand." But instead,
Mhm.
she got so defensive and
Mhm.
saying her life doesn't have to make sense to everyone, but Ariana's life has to make sense to her right now, it seems. So I'm not understanding my girl Lala like I usually get her and not getting it. I'm
Like,
very curious about the reunion. I'm like, what happened? I think they were really
mhm.
going for like a Ariana villain arc and it didn't happen. And Katie.
Which is crazy because neither of them did anything. Both of their partners have done everything to them.
They're
So
literally Vanderpump royalty. Those are the girlfriends and the exes of the Toms. Like that is
Mhm.
like they deserve respect. And I do feel like they are trying their best to like move on and have fun and be like healthier. And so it is interesting to just watch everybody be like, Katie's such a hypocrite for sleeping with Schwartz's friend, or like, Ariana shouldn't be living with him. It's just everyone is coming for my girls.
It's a lot. Any other thoughts on Vanderpump before we move on to the Valley?
No, I feel like that was good. I think we got it out of our systems. I am just also one last thing I'll say, I guess, is like you were saying, is that what is that in Lala that makes her talk about herself or relate everything back to herself? And just my astrologer like brain went off, and it's like Sutton is the other housewife that everyone talks about doing that the most, and she is a Virgo. So I'm sorry to the Virgos listening to this episode.
That's very, very interesting.
Love you
Okay, good
guys.
to know. All right, the Valley. Kristen and Michelle, their issue is so interesting to me. I would also be like, I never want to talk to you or see you again. But I'm also like, girl, you're filming a show now. Like, you're going to have to deal with this bitch.
Yeah. And people like this show. This show seems to be like staying around, I think, more than people thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Because at first, even I was like, oh, so they're just trying to like get as much money out of like Scandival as they can. But I'm like, this is actually pretty good. I'm entertained. And Kristen Doty just needed like a platform for chaos again. The world is just better when it's Kristen Doty being chaotic on TV.
One of my favorite things is the way she's constantly just breaking fourth wall.
Yeah. She really is now. She's like, on camera this, and when we're filming that, and I'm like, whoa. She's like, this is Peacock, bitch.
Yeah, I fucking love it. Who are your favorites right now besides our usual suspects?
Like Janet. I think she's like, we'll see. Like I could see myself not liking her later down the road, maybe, but right now I like her a lot. And I think she's actually been friends with all of these people for years in the background. Like I've seen them post about her, talk about her. And I feel like she's been ready for this. Like I feel like she's been waiting her turn kind of to like be on. So I think Janet is a fave. Obviously, I'm like pretty sad about Brittany and Jax not being together anymore because I was kind of rooting for them. We did also an episode about their romantic compatibility and what a strong couple they like had the potential to be. So it's sad that they aren't working out. Um, and then I would have to say that I just like, I'm here for the gays right now also. Like I really am just enjoying Zach, and I'm happy that we got a lesbian or a bisexual girly like myself. I think Bravo's been doing a good job, like with Preston in Martha's Vineyard too, just bringing in more gays.
What do you think about Jesse?
Oh my God. Yeah, the hand and like he is rough. I think even in that scene where him and Michelle are talking about the dinner, they are so not on the same page with each other. Like he was trying to literally, I think, compliment her and vibe with her, and she didn't even like the way he was doing it. And then she's saying in the confessional, we haven't laughed like this in years, but they're not laughing in the scene. I was like, no one's laughing. Like no one's even really cracking a smile. Like, is there something I'm not seeing? Um, he's just like one of the most terrible people I've seen on TV in a while.
He's bad. I don't know why they can't just like cast normal fun guys. Like what happened to
Yeah.
that? Although I do like that they're parent. Like I
Yeah.
like that dad scene of them going to the county fair. Like I did get more entertainment than I thought I would from it.
Wait, the scene with like Jax and all the dads like complaining
Throwing.
about their life. Okay, wait. The voice actor guy, what is his name?
I totally forgot.
He's amazing. He's the
Yeah.
only one that's like, I don't know, guys, why don't you learn their love languages? And Jack's like, what? Is that a test I get at CVS? And I was like, I fucking love this guy and his beautiful wife. They're the most like neutral, chill people on this show. He's just like, I don't relate to you guys hating your life. Why do you
Yeah.
hate your life? Like, there's just that scene was wild.
Wild. I loved it. I fucking loved it. And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is what happens. Like now you have to make effort for sex. Like this is how it works.
Yeah, he's like, "That's life." I'm also, like, I'm a little worried about Brittany and Jax's son, Cruz. Like, I that was, like, breaking my heart a little bit.
I feel bad, but I don't know if Brittany has given any updates on how he's doing
Yeah,
now.
I don't know. Yeah, I hope he's okay.
I hope so too. I did see online that he was blaming the vaccine.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Okay, that's another thing is, like, are we really gonna go down the racist, Republican route when it's like we all know about, like, first of all, Brittany and Jax and, like, the homophobic, like, pastor and everything with that. Obviously, they both are, like, Republican. Like, I'm not maybe or whatever. And then
Mhm.
Kristen, we all know why she got fired from Vanderpump, so I'm just a little
It's so
confused. I'm like, "Guys, you're
wild.
walking right into it." But I guess that's why it works because it is more fun when we get to
It's
acknowledge, I guess, why they left. Watching Vanderpump through and not having been, like, around when people got fired, they do just glaze
so
over it. They don't really
yeah.
explain it. I feel like you had to be present in that, like, news
Mhm.
cycle to understand
Mhm.
it at the time, so I was kind of like it's
Confused.
interesting getting to see Kristen, like, talk about it now a little bit.
Yeah. It is crazy.
Mhm.
It's so chaotic. Any other thoughts on the Valley? I mean, besides Kristen wearing Birkenstocks to that gala?
She's an odd one. She's an Aquarius. She's meant to be a little kooky and, like, different. And Michelle's a Scorpio. And I do think Aquarius and Scorpio totally get under each other's skin sometimes. So we'll see. But Michelle being a Scorpio, I'm like, maybe she's going to burn it all down. Like, she's just going to be done and, like, get really, I mean, she already did kind of, like, blow up a little bit, but
Mhm.
the secrets and, like, all this weird stuff between them, I feel like it's gonna keep going because I feel like those signs never really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the Valley in general?
No, I mean, I think I'm pleasantly surprised, and I wanna see where it's going, and I'm very interested in the unraveling of Jax and Brittany. I think he's already talking about her in a way that's so disrespectful, and he always has, but I was rooting for them, so I'm interested to see.
Well, they remind me of, not remind me, but there are similarities between Kyle and Amanda and Jackson Brittany in the sense that you can tell the women just like put up with these very strong personalities. And I always thought Brittany and Jax would last because I was like, Brittany's just going to put up with him. You know what I mean? Like, she's just going to deal with his shit. And that's what I've been thinking about Amanda. But then I'm like, oh, but look,
It's like
like,
at some point you can't deal. Even Ariana, I actually think Ariana was gonna like deal with Sandoval the rest of her life, kind of being like a little immature and like
Mhm,
always staying out. And it's like,
mhm,
I agree. I thought Brittany was just gonna be rock solid for him, but I'm proud of her because she's so sweet and you can tell. And I do think she'd be happier with somebody else. Like, I think Jax now seeing like years later that this is where they are and kind of seeing who Jax has become, it doesn't really seem like he's changed for the better or anything. Like he seems the exact same and that scares me. And I'm just
mhm.
like, I think she can do better and will be happier with somebody else.
Well, we're going to have to fucking see.
We'll say
Okay, Summer House,
the
best
best.
thing on Bravo. What are your initial thoughts on everything going on this season?
I love West and Jesse Solomon. They're great.
Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, because sometimes Summer House brings in people that are a little more, like, awkward or they don't quite
Mhm.
fit, and it's like, this has been from the start just really good, like, cast chemistry. I am week by week changing my feelings about the Carl and Lindsay stuff. I feel like everyone is. I feel like we're
Yeah.
all a little, like, jumbled. And then I'm just worried about Kyle and Amanda. That's my big concern. I felt like this week was really tough when he like told her that it's really lonely to be married to her. That's a tough thing to say to your wife. Like I'm concerned. I wasn't like I thought they were going to be okay and then this season has concerned me.
I will say Kyla seems like one of those guys that just like says shit, like says really dramatic shit, and just it's what's his sign? Do you know?
So they're both Leos. And Leo's like, yeah, and drama and
Mhm.
like partying and fun and like childlike energy. And I think they both love to like give each other attention. But I also think that Leo men are a little bit of a different breed because of the things that Leos represent mixed with like what we teach men in society. It's like you can get a little bit of like a chauvinistic energy from like a Leo man because it's like the lion and like all the pride and like the leader and royalty and king. And Kyle definitely has that energy to him, whereas Amanda's a little bit more of a laid back Leo.
Interesting.
She's
Very,
more
very
chill.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I also like their conversation about kids is really interesting, where she's like, we always agreed this would be our reality. And now he's like switching up the script. And I can't tell if he's doing it for the show, but I will say their therapy session was really raw,
I
really
was
raw.
thinking that too. I'm like, okay, part of me is wondering in the beginning of the season, are they like, okay, this is going to be our storyline? But
Mhm.
it also, his drinking and partying is at the core of a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not going to pretend anymore that he's not
Mhm.
falling asleep in the kitchen every night with like dinosaur chicken nuggets around him. And it's like, I think he doesn't want to be a father because he doesn't want to like give up the partying lifestyle. I think
Mhm.
him and Lindsay are like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But I think Kyle actually like has the relationship and the opportunity to like grow up and stop partying. And
Mhm.
he doesn't want to. Like, I think he really actually is terrified of like not being able to stay out till 4 a.m. And it's very weird. Like, I don't understand if he has a drinking problem or
I also don't think he's ready to let go of Summer House.
no. And I think how much longer? Yeah, because like when you have a kid, you can't really do it.
No,
That would
you
like
can't
make
do
no
it.
sense.
No, imagine ditching your kids for an entire weekend to go party. You can't do that.
Yeah. And it's sad because I think it's like he could not continue a summer house and like settle down and have a family with Amanda, or he can hold on to summer house and I think actually risk their marriage
Yeah.
because, and I relate to this, like I moved from LA to, or I'm from New York, but I moved to LA from New York City and my nervous system felt so fried living there. And like I relate to
Mhm.
Amanda, how she always just wants to like lay in bed and they're like,
Mhm.
she acts like she's like sleepy all the time and whatever. But New York City is a very overwhelming place to live for some people. And I do think they're at the age where it's like, if she wants to leave, that's perfectly normal. And I feel like him keeping
Mhm.
her there, that could really bring them down. Just, I've been there and you can't force somebody to like stay in New York City and try and have a family there when they don't want that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I feel like on Watch What Happens Live when they've both been on, I feel like you can tell they're still kind of going through it.
Interesting.
She always tries for him. And I do love that, like the Britney quality of like, she always
Mhm.
tries and she's stayed through a lot of stuff. I think this season where they're like getting married leading up to their wedding when they get sick and they're like crying and it's like they've just never really been able to have like the storybook romance kind of thing. And I give them a lot of respect for just being so open and public about that because I feel like it's been the opposite of some like cute romance that we see on TV. It's been a disaster.
Agreed. I was also living for Paige breaking fourth wall and being like, do you ever just like go home and get mad at him for saying, what the fuck did you say on national TV?
Yeah. And it's like, she definitely does. She's a Capricorn moon like me, also, Amanda, I'm pretty sure. And Capricorn moon people are very like, we're almost like naturally doing PR when somebody asks us like how we are emotionally. And we can be very protective of like our partners and the way we talk about our romantic partners and relationships. And there's like a sense of privacy that I feel like he totally just like makes her uncomfortable a lot of the time and puts stuff out there that like they should really talk about in private or not on the show. But that's also why I think he's kind of like Lindsay. And also, I think Lindsay's losing her mind a little bit.
Well, let's talk about Lindsay talking about her and Carl's lack of sex life.
Crazy.
Insane.
Like they're too close to their wedding for that to be the case. And the way she's like, Carlito, like I'm like, she's having a mental breakdown.
But she was like, neither, she told everyone, neither of us came. Crazy.
Like she said that on national TV.
She said that with her
She's
chest.
done. She did. She said it with her whole chest. And she was like, maybe we need to have sex more so there's less pressure to come. And I was like, whoa, we're getting into like the intricacies. And everyone was like, oh my God. And Amanda's like shoving ranch down her throat.
So good. No,
Crazy
that was,
scene.
no, the fact that she like said that with her chest and then was like, yeah, I'm marrying this man in 2 months is like,
I know. And I think they have so many issues. I think that the way they got together is a little weird. I do feel like she just got horny one day and was like, Carl, I'm really feeling you. And he was like, me
yeah.
too. And then it just happened. But it's it's too close to the wedding for her to be sexually like in that place with him. And obviously Kyle and Amanda went through stuff right before their wedding. So
Yeah. It
no
happened.
judgment. It happens. Seeing her in her wedding dress, I was actually very sad for her because it was like this moment of like, oh, like this girl just wants to get married so bad. But I don't know. She needs to do the work on herself, find the right partner. On Watch What Happens Live, I actually laughed so hard because they were asking Kyle, what do you think Lindsay needs and what do you think Carl needs? And he was saying
Uh-huh.
Carl needs someone less alpha, which I think is true.
Uh-huh.
And he was saying Lindsay needs like a deli shop owner, like someone who's like really tough and like a rock. And
Uh-huh.
I feel that. I feel like they are not a good match. And watching them unravel is sad because Lindsay is unhinged and there's a lot of footage of her being unhinged. So I think it's really easy to make her look like the villain in all of this. But it's been
Yeah.
nice to see the girls in the house step up and be a little bit like, you kind of feel bad for her, actually.
Yeah. Agreed.
There's more
How was the
to Carl than we see, probably.
yeah. Summer House is delivering. It's feeling OG. Jesse bringing a girl back to the house and hooking up with her in the hot tub. Felt very OG Summer House.
Yes.
I'm obsessed.
I love Jesse. I actually think normally Ciara might have gone for like a Jesse,
Yeah.
but I do feel like Jesse and West are kind of like both her type in a different way. I just always think back of the beginning with Ciara and like Luke. That was like my intro to her. And that was like that was wild.
That was wild.
But like, I don't know. I think Jesse Solomon is perfect. I'm also so happy that Andrea's back. He needed to be back when he like comes in with the coffee and the tea for them in the morning. I was like, oh, I love
So
this.
great.
I love his vibe.
Mhm.
I like love Paige. I feel like she's
Mhm.
like Scorpio from New York. I relate to her. I do think the stuff with her and Craig, it wasn't very much in this episode, but like I'm
Mhm.
excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for them. And I think that I don't know if it's going to be a forever thing because I really don't see her like moving to South Carolina, but she's a good friend to Amanda and Kyle in this episode. I felt like she's in this like middleman position and she's just like, I liked when she said to Kyle, like, why don't you just stop being such a fucking dick to Amanda all the time? And it's
Yeah.
like,
It's
yeah. And
valid.
then Kyle starts crying, being like, there's no pictures of me in her camera roll. Like, what?
Literally
So Leo
crying.
sobbing. She was like, let's talk about this later.
But you know what? I am obsessed with the fact that they're separating the group
Yeah.
for nights out.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I actually agree. It was nice to see Carl and Danielle in the same place, kind of
Yeah.
like neutrally. It's like, oh, that kind of like has been like a weird thing for a while. And I do think Lindsay was a pretty awful friend to Danielle. I thought that was like a pretty rough season. And Danielle's been pretty loyal and ride or die. So I'm just like, yeah, it was nice to just see her out with everybody that she's also, I feel like, not always with.
Agreed. What's her sign?
So she is a Capricorn sun, Gemini moon, Taurus rising.
Holy shit.
Interesting. Yeah,
Intense.
very intense. I liked her on Winter House when she's just like being pretty messy. Like I was like, whoa, she feels so real to me. She feels like a
Yeah.
real person. Her presence makes sense there. Um, and then yeah, it's interesting because Kyle is a Leo Aquarius moon and Amanda is a Leo Capricorn moon. So he does say, and Aquarius moon can really say very chaotic things sometimes. Um, we were talking about this. Yeah. And I do feel like her Capricorn moon is like, gets very anxious about the things that he's saying. And I had that relationship with my ex for sure, where like they were Aqua moon and I was Cap moon. And I would be like, why did you say that?
Wow.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
I
I
try to
feel
see like
her.
what's the crazy shit I can say at lunch right now. That's fine
Yeah.
with me.
Oh, yeah. And then Paige is Scorpio, Pisces moon, Aquarius rising.
Pisces moon, that I didn't see coming.
Same. I'm like, who? She's probably secretly way more emotional than we see, but she hides behind that like
Yeah.
Scorpio, Aquarius rising, like dry sense of humor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Love her.
Wow. Any other thoughts on Summer House before we close this episode out?
Just, I truly am like hoping for, I want Lindsay and Carl separately to both be okay, like
Agreed.
with different people. And I think that there's no villain, there's no bad guy. And I think that we should not even be looking at it from that angle. They just probably would be better with other people and
Mhm.
rooting for Kyle and Amanda as always.
I'm with you on both of those.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. This has been
Of
so
course.
much fun.
So
You are
fun.
welcome back whenever.
Oh my God. Good. Fun.
And then, yeah, thank you guys for joining me on this week's episode of That's My Opinion Pod. And I'll see you next week.